Welcome, everyone. This is Karen Harrison, and this is Reiki Call, February 20th, 2023. My website is karenharrison.net, and you can find this podcast on my YouTube channel at Karen Harrison Reiki, and also on Amazon and Audible and iTunes and Google Play and Spotify. So tonight I am very excited to have my dear friend Karen Caig with me, and her website is reiki-institute.com. She is located in Bella Vista, Arkansas, only 3 hours south of Kansas City. And Karen and I both have some exciting things to share about coming up. And so we were talking and we got inspired to create this podcast on using Reiki to follow your dreams. So, Karen, we both have some big changes coming up where we are both moving. So I think that both of us have started packing.
Oh, yep. You can't tell from looking behind me here, but I have started packing all my things. So
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sponsoring this podcast today, Karen, because I think this is a really important topic. I've been talking with a lot of people when they find out that I'm moving to another country and they're like, oh, wow, isn't that a big undertaking? I'm like, yes, it is. And then Karen is telling what you're doing, which is also a big undertaking.
I have been in the process of building a lake house for 2 years. One day in January, a couple of years ago, I woke up and thought, I'm going to buy a lake house. Just the guidance strapped in. I spend time in Reiki every morning for 30 minutes to an hour, and I just listen in, and I got inspired. And by 2 days later, I had verbally bought a lake house. And then a few days after that, the person backed out, but it turned out to be a good thing because then I found a lake lot, and I'm now building on the lot and moving to Missouri from Kansas. It's only 25 minutes away, but yeah, it's a new state for business, driver's license, and a lot of services. And Karen, you're doing an even bigger plunge. Tell us about where you're going.
So I'm selling pretty much everything I have and going with 4 large suitcases and 2 cats to northern Ecuador.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And how did you get that guidance?
It's what I wanted. The reason we want to talk about this is because you may have some inkling of something that you've always wanted to do in the back of your mind, but you never really give voice to it, or the time isn't right. Your children are still at home. Or something. I've been looking at Ecuador really since the 90s. And wow. I went in 2017. I took a group of students to the Galapagos Islands. So we went to Quito, but that's the only time I had been there. And it had just been in the back of my mind for a long, long time. And I think the time was just right. And I live in a condo, and my landlord last July 1st sent me a letter and said, I'm selling your condo. You have to find another place to live. And I was like, oh, what? So that's another story of like scatter and regroup and, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I ended up moving to this condo, which is just a 3-minute drive away in the same basic area. But I knew that was sort of like the nudge that I needed to go, maybe this is time. Maybe it's time to go. And then so I asked for guidance on, am I supposed to move to Ecuador now? And I got a very clear yes. And I don't know how much detail you want me to go into. Karen and I were talking about like, just 3 things. One, first of all, how do you know that it's time to do whatever it is you've been dreaming about doing for a long time? How do you know it's time? How do you get the guidance that you need? And then 2, how do you make a plan? And then 3, how do you carry that plan out? Because those are all the the 3 main stumbling parts that that you have to get through. So that's what we want to talk with you guys about tonight.
Yeah, so you can be inspired to follow your own dreams. Karen said every big change is just a bunch of little changes put together. It's just one step at a time. My builder, when I got my builder, who happens to have Reiki connections with me, which was pretty exciting, gave me a 12-step plan. So I've been joking that I've been working, the 12-step process through this, which is a term that they use in recovery and addictions. So I've been working on that 12-step plan. It's not a linear plan though, you kind of circle through and spiral, and there's a lot of letting go of attachment to how it's going to look and trusting in the process and maybe being open to something better happening. So yeah, so these ideas are for making a change in anything that you want in life. So making the decision. So Karen, you were saying you got the guidance a long time ago that you wanted to go live in Ecuador, in another country.
Yeah, what is that, 30 years ago?
Oh, okay, a while back.
So I'm trying to look, those who are just listening perhaps to this podcast and you can't see the people on here, I'm looking around at everyone in this podcast and it's a Zoom call and I'm like, okay, we're not 25-year-old people, and we probably have some dreams that we've been sitting on for a long time. So I don't think that, and Karen, how long have you wanted to have like your dream house on a lake? Oh, Joyce, are you saying I'm 25? No. But I mean, the point is that
25. I'm 51.
and even if you're 25, maybe you've had a dream since you're 5 years old. There's always that time where you go, is this the time that I'm going to get to do what I really wanted to do? And usually something happens that kind of jars you into, it's like a nudge, and you're like, oh, it moves you out of your comfort zone. Most of us have to be blasted out of our comfort zone. Like, Karen, what happened? Did the guidance just dropped in for you?
Yes, I just woke up one day and thought, okay, now's the time to go get a lake house. What I'd had for a long time was a sister with a lake house, which I really thought was better than my own lake house. And she was very kind and generous. I had many parties out there, and many times I'd have my friends out there. But I kind of thought maybe I might be wearing my welcome out a little bit by coming out there so much. And so I thought, yeah, I should probably get my own lake house. And finally, I was moving into a time in my life when I felt ready, because I'd been offered a fixer-upper house in the past through some family connections, but I just didn't feel I was ready to take that on. It was too big.
But you were meditating. So I want to point out, because this is a Reiki podcast, you really should be doing yourself Reiki every day and give yourself permission for that self-care, for any guidance to drop in. If you're not taking care of yourself and, being quiet and giving yourself Reiki, or if you're a holy fire practitioner at the master level, do that holy fire meditation. But give yourself the space to dream, because if you're not giving yourself the space to dream and connect to source, then you're not getting the guidance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not saying it. And then sometimes it does come as like a 2x4 up against the side of your head. Like, boom, you got to find a new place to live. Like, oh, okay.
Oh yeah, you got like a month.
I had it, yeah, and I didn't sell everything and move to Ecuador in a month. But magically, the housing market in Northwest Arkansas is crazy. I mean, everyone wants to move here because it's beautiful. But I found this one condo. And then the other thing was, I was going to talk about at the later stage, I signed a lease for a year. And the guidance I got when I said, am I supposed to move to Ecuador? If I'm supposed to move to Ecuador, send me a sign. I asked for a very specific sign, and it sounds kind of weird, but...
Oh, tell us the story. I want to hear it.
So one of my, I guess you would say, spirit totems is a praying mantis, and I don't see them very often. And that's something that's just weird. So I said, okay, if I'm supposed to move to Ecuador, which is weird, then you're going to have to send me something like really weird. Like, I want to see a praying mantis, because I haven't seen one in about a year. And we had just gone to the Reiki retreat, and afterwards, and I saw a praying mantis at the retreat, and then twice. And then the weirdest thing was, when I came back from the retreat, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, because I had to fly to Tulsa, drive back to Arkansas. I came in about 1 o'clock in the morning, and no kidding, on my ceiling was a praying mantis. And so
Wow.
I caught it and I put it outside. And I don't know if it was the same one that came back in, but the next night I went to bed. I was going to turn off the lamp, and there's a praying mantis on the ceiling again. And then not the next night, but the following night, again, praying mantis. So finally I was like, okay, I get it. And the moment I said out loud to someone, I am moving to Ecuador, not I'm thinking about moving to Ecuador. I might move to Ecuador. But when I said I am moving to Ecuador, they stopped coming. So I thought, okay, now that sounds insane. But if you guys are Reiki people, you're probably used to a little bit of weird stuff. So that was my guidance. And then I told my friend that I was going to move, and he said, it's another licensed teacher. And he said, what? Ecuador? Why Ecuador? Tell me more. So I told him, all the reasons I wanted to move there. And he started doing research. And then he contacted me and said, can we go in November? And so I said, okay. And we went in November and found a place to live, checked it out. I wanted to make sure that the internet would work, high-speed internet, because I'm up about 2 hours north of Quito in the Andes Mountains. So I want to make sure the high-speed internet was good enough for me to teach. And it was. So it just went bop, 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 bop.
Yeah.
My landlord's even letting me out of my lease. I just found that out.
Well, I think that's pretty miraculous. And you manifested a friend to go with you, and he's building a house there.
I'm renting, but he decided to, it's because, well, he's building a brand new house, like with granite countertops, brand new stuff, 2-bedroom, 2-bath for $160,000 on a huge lot. And that's landscaped and everything.
So I think that's pretty amazing. So some of the things to help you with making the decision is tuning in and listening. And one of the great things about Reiki, many people think they have a hard time meditating, but if you give yourself Reiki, that helps to quiet your mind and tune in more to however you get your guidance, whether you see ideas in your mind or hear ideas, or just have a sense of knowing, or you think about things, ideas and your guidance will just come to you. You can also do the Holy Fire meditation if you have the Sui Holy Fire class, where you activate the Holy Fire and just meditate on that, because it's when our minds are still that the divine, by whatever name we call it, can give us some inspiration for what is our next step, to create our best life. And then you can also work with the distance symbol from our Reiki 2 class and send Reiki, to connect with whatever your next step is on your path, or the dream that you want to manifest.
Or to remove any obstacles. But I did that with the lease, because I thought, honestly, he's not going to let me out of this lease. I was talking with my coach today about that. I said, there really is such a thing as, it's called FOFO. Is anybody familiar with FOFO? FOFO. It stands for fear of finding out. And it usually relates to people with a medical condition. I'm thinking of my stepfather. Alzheimer's runs in his family. And I said, they have a test. Why don't you get a test? He goes, I don't want to know. Maybe I do. I didn't want to ask my landlord if I could get out of my lease, because I was afraid he would say, no, you can't. And so I put it off for quite some time, that fear of finding out. And I used the distance symbol before I asked. I wrote down, my landlord has released, this is so crazy. My landlord has released me from my lease and is returning my deposit. And I know this by, anyway, I put the date, and I sent Reiki to that for a couple of days. And then I asked him the day before I had written down, and believe it or not, he said, sure. He said, you've been a great tenant. He said, and I will be happy till it's close to the time. I thought, no, it's not, April and to July, that's not close. But he said, and I will give you back your deposit. And it turns out he wanted to sell the condo. So he's letting me out and he's giving me back my deposit. And I was talking with my coach about how Karen, you're talking about being still. If you give yourself Reiki so that you can keep that quiet mind, because otherwise you won't take a step forward. Like maybe I said, it's more like me to go, oh, he's not going to let me out of my lease. I'm not even going to ask. And so I may not have even asked. I may have just said, you know what, I'm going to have to pay $1,200 a month and just leave. But I asked, but I sent Reiki to it. I asked, and then it turned out that he was kind of anxious to sell this condo. So he was happy.
Well,
So,
I think that's pretty cool.
so if you
and
ask, rather than getting up in your head, and because I'm a great storyteller, I tell myself all kinds of stories about all the horrible things that are going to happen, right? So I'm really imaginative, it's like, and then this will happen. So give yourself
I think a lot of
Reiki.
us do that.
Yeah, we all do. My coach calls it the IBS committee, stands for, the IBS committee. And she says, you get that negative thought process going in your brain. And I told her, I said, that's what Reiki helps me with. It helps me get calm, connect to source, and get rid of all that negative thinking so I can hear the guidance. Like, just ask, send Reiki to it. It also gives you something that you can do for things that really are out of your control. I didn't have any control over whether my landlord was going to let me out of the lease or not, but I could send Reiki to it.
Yeah. So, and speaking of sending Reiki, let's talk about creating the plan. One of the things for me in building a house was finding a builder. And it was kind of obvious since I had Reiki connections to the builder I chose, but I didn't want to automatically choose that builder. I interviewed a couple others, but ultimately decided on the one that I had Reiki connections with. And then following the synchronicities that you notice, I mean, that was a big synchronicity that, the house that I currently live in and people that I have Reiki connections with led me to the builder that I have, and then another Reiki connection that I have recommended me to this builder. And that other Reiki connection is who I got my flooring and tile and carpet from. So I thought those are pretty cool connections that happened along the way, as well as if I'm moving out of one house, that means I got to sell this house. So I told my next door neighbor that I was going to be moving, and he said, my son wants to buy your house. It's like, really? And I'm a marriage and family therapist, and I'm thinking, right, I don't know what you're thinking, but no adult kid in their right mind wants to live next door to their parent. He assured me that his son did, and I thought, well, I doubt it, but we'll see. So a few months later, I'm sitting on the porch, and he said, can my son and I come over and look at your house? I said, sure. Luckily it wasn't in too bad of a state. So they came over and looked at it, and he looked at the first floor and the basement. He didn't even look at the bedrooms, and he said, I want it. I was like, don't you want to look at the bedrooms? He was more interested in the basement, the garage. He's a guy, and then his wife didn't look at it. And I'm thinking, what man would agree to buy a house without his wife's input? But luckily about 4 months after that, he brought her over and she did like it. So they're getting the house. So I just kind of joke that Reiki sold the house. I mean, that was very little effort, then we had to come to an agreement on the price, which we did. So, that's a very cool synchronicity that Reiki just took care of that for me.
Mm-hmm.
And Karen, how did you find your place to live? You went down to Ecuador on vacation and just happened to manifest.
I'm renting the so we Airbnb'd in a little condo community, and since we stayed there and I liked it, I'm leasing one of those. And I think because it's so overwhelming, if you can send Reiki to it, if once you get clear, yes, this is the direction to go, then don't try to look at the whole big picture. Like, oh my gosh, where am I going to live? Or I did want to go put feet on the ground because I had not been in that town. I'd only been in the capital. But then I think, how am I going to move these cats? How do I get a visa? What do I do about health insurance? There are so many questions that I have. I've never been, and I've never lived in another country. I've traveled a lot, but it's different to live there. And there's so many tiny steps that it would be very easy just to look at it and go like, no, I think I'll just stay here. But, or like building a house, selling your house, you know, all those steps that are in there. But if you can just go, like Karen said, just kind of follow the breadcrumbs and just do one thing at a time. We went down there. It's like, huh, I could lease this. I met with the landlady. I met the taxi driver. I mean, I talk with people in Ecuador now on WhatsApp, you know, like, hey, what's this? And so I feel like I have people kept saying, do you know anybody there? I'm like, no.
And
But I came back and said, now I do.
You'd never been to the town that you decided to move to either.
Nope. But I'd researched a lot. I'm a researcher. So you do this, you know, anybody who's not familiar with Reiki, if you're listening to this podcast, I don't want you to think that you just go like, oh, Reiki will work out everything. I mean, I don't want to sound woo-woo. You do the research, whatever it is you're dreaming. I'm looking at you guys. I don't know what you might want to do, something that seems like it's too much. I want to open my own Reiki business. I don't know. I don't know what you might want to do. Anything that it is, you do the work. You know, you research, you do the market research. You know, don't just go flying going, Reiki will take care of me. It will, but you have to, you know, do the logical hands-on stuff and then trust the guidance that you get. And that just go one little step. I told my coach, I said, it felt like I opened one door and I would go like, this way? Is it this way? And then I'd see like a little light, okay, that direction, you know, open the next door. Okay, now this way. And it's just been like that. And Karen, isn't that how it's been for you? You had to make so many decisions. Talk about decision fatigue when you're.
Oh, it's a lot of decision fatigue. And I told the builder that I do not have any decorating sense. It's just not my expertise. And I said, if you leave it to me, the house will be pink and purple or some, you know, some awful combination. Now, I do have a confession. My front door, they're painting today, leapfrog green. We'll see how that turns out.
I like the name of it.
Leapfrog green. So, you know, sure, I can choose a light fixture. I can choose, you know, a paint color, but are they all going to go together? Is it all going to look right? So one of the things that I did, I got this inspiration from one of William Rand's prayers, which is, you know, God, create for me the best life that you can conceive of. So from that, I got inspired to send Reiki to the house and ask the house to show me what its highest version looked like, you know, its highest and best. So I would just intend that I'm working from the finished product. The Reiki is showing me in my mind what that finished product looks like. So all I have to do is kind of look and make the choices from that. Now, I mean, I'm not so great at seeing, I'm better at hearing, but that's a process that I used many times as I was trying to figure out how it was all going to fit together. And I'm very grateful that, you know, the decisions that I've made, I've been happy with almost all of them. One flooring choice I didn't like, so I just had them rip it up and put in something different because it just didn't look good. But, you know, all the rest have looked good. Of course, I did do pretty easy. I did basically, you know, cream and white on everything, on all the walls and on the outside. So it's pretty hard to mess up if, you know, you choose really basic neutral colors. But yes, it's been many, many decisions. And if it weren't for that 12-step plan, working just a little bit at a time, I mean, that really helped, you know, to have kind of an outline. Okay, during this month, all I have to do is make decisions on these 3 things, you know, paint color, stone, and roof. You know, the next month, maybe I'll choose the windows and the gutters and the doors and, you know, and so on. And Karen, it sounds like you had a list too, you know, so many things.
But
The visa, the cats.
Yeah. So, but you know what? I guess I did sort of the same thing. So all of you, whatever it is that you're dreaming of, like maybe, and it may just be like, I don't know what my dream is, but it needs to be something besides this because I'm tired of this. And so do what Karen did, ask source creator to show you like, what would be the best thing for me to be doing with my life? And don't think about the how is that going to happen or anything, but just like, what would that look like? And then you can go to how might I get there? But don't be too, like Karen, emphasize, don't be too attached to like what exactly it's going to be. You really have to be kind of flexible, like, I thought it was going to be this, but you know what? I don't like that. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, I thought I would live in town, but you know what? There are a lot of barking dogs in that little town. I believe I want to live out here, out past the pigs and the cows. Yeah, I believe that's a little more.
And
So
that's where you're living, past the pigs and the cows.
Yeah, there's a pig. There's a pig that, yeah, it's a different culture. Yeah. So I live in a condo community, but I looked at an apartment in town and there was a vacant lot. And I thought, well, this is kind of cool though. Probably because I grew up in Texas, but there was just a cow just grazing in the vacant lot. And I said, everywhere ought to have cows grazing in the vacant lots. That makes sense to me. But you have to be open. I guess the takeaway is ask source creator to help you see a bigger picture of what it is you want exactly, get clear on that. And then just say, how might I get there? And then listen for like, what's the first step? And then what's the next best step? And try not to think, I don't know how I'm going to get to this beautiful life that I can see, or this perfect business, or whatever it is that you're dreaming to do. Just say, get a really clear picture. Energy goes where your attention goes. So the more clearly you can envision it, and Reiki's helped me with that. And those of you who practice Reiki, how does that help you? It's because if you're like me, it was hard to visualize because I had all this, everybody else's thoughts and all my fears and the negative inner critic in my head. And, Reiki helps you still and clear all of that. And when you get still and clear, you can see clearly and you know exactly what it is you want. And then you don't have to say, it's not just going to, magically appear, but how might I get there?
Yes.
And not how should you get there? How could I get there? Don't put pressure on yourself that it has to be done by this time, or it has to be done exactly this way, because you don't know. You don't know if you're going to say, hey, I'm moving. And then somebody pops up and says, oh yeah, my son wants to buy your house. I mean, you don't know what's going to pop up. So just be open.
Yes. So now we're talking about executing the plan, sending Reiki to yourself, to the plan, to be flexible, because when I originally started this thing, they told me that they would be done in about 10 months from breaking ground. Well, that meant I would have been in the house, oh gosh, well over a year ago. Yeah, no. So obviously that didn't happen. And building a house during the pandemic required additional flexibility and a change of plans here and there, and, extra cost on materials and labor, and, just taking a deep breath and understanding that, okay, it's not going to be quite like I wanted. I kept having to go to the tile store and re-choose tile because it kept going out of stock after I chose it. And, my sister kept telling me, well, why don't they just hold it for you? And, they can't hold it for just months for all their customers. They don't have big enough warehouses. So, but I was grateful to not have to make all the decisions at once. So many of the decisions I made, I was able to keep, and that was helpful.
And, so when I ask when, and I heard very clearly April, I'm clairaudient. So, I heard April and I was like, And then of course, then I try to argue, what, April? Well, my lease isn't finished until July. But no, April. Okay. And so I got a visa agent because I don't know how to do this. So I paid somebody $1,200 to take care. Everything has to be translated into Spanish and then apostilled, which is like an international notary. And, I didn't know whether I should try to go on a professional visa or a pensioner's visa or an investor's visa. I didn't know what to do. So I heard April. So I was making a plan on that. I felt like I was just putting my foot out going. And as my foot came down, something appeared under it. But I started the visa process. And then that involved getting my university in Texas to send my diploma. And then another letter saying that it wasn't online. I said, oh, for heaven's sakes, it was 1989. Did we even have computers? But we had to have a verification letter that it was not an online degree. And then the Ecuadorian government changed the law and required another letter. So that process took a lot longer. And that was the first step, is to get your university degree registered with the Ecuadorian government. And so I thought, I'm not going to make this by April. And so then it turned out, to be flexible, like Karen's saying, I asked, well, can I go on a tourist visa? Because you can stay in Ecuador for 90 days with a tourist visa. And the visa agent said, yes, just go on a tourist visa. And then, we'll finish the process once you're here. It'll definitely be done by then. I said, can you come as a tourist with 2 cats? Who does that? It's like, hi, no, just visiting with my 2 cats, And so then that took a while because I didn't want to be in Quito with 2 cats. And they say, oh, sorry, you cannot come into our country. And I'll be like, oh, crap. So, but it turned out I got an official from the Ecuadorian government that, yes, I can bring cats on a tourist visa. So, you execute the plan, but sometimes it feels like 1 step forward, 2 steps backward. Or as Karen said earlier, it really does kind of go in a spiral. You think, oh, I've moved this direction. And then you think, didn't I just do this? And then, but you are moving forward. It's just sort of like this kind of a forward, it's spiraling as you move forward.
Yeah. And you had to get your son to take one of the cats, right? Because you could only travel with 1 cat.
It's 1 person per pet. So I asked my son, like, say, what are you doing in April? He's like, working, like, on the computer, right? You could do that from Ecuador, right? He's like, well, maybe. Like, how about if I buy your ticket and you come back? Because he did like Ecuador. So, and yeah, just the exit. And I'm still not there, but it's the amazing thing. This is the easiest thing I have ever done in my life. And that's what I wanted to share, is that I guess I've fought through everything. I pushed too hard. I tried too hard. And Karen, I guess I took your class, I don't know, probably almost 10 years ago. And so I was her student, but it's been a long process of learning to let go and trust Reiki, trust that things are going to go. The more I try, somebody was going to come tonight and she sent an email and she said, I've had a terrible month. I lost my debit card. I've had this happen. And I really wanted to have my business up and going. And I'm just so disappointed in myself. And I said, well, I want you to listen to the recording, because one of the messages I want to send to everybody is that when you're trying to chase your dreams, when you're trying to execute a plan, don't be too hard on yourself. And the more you let go, the more in the flow you get. I told somebody else, I said, usually when things started to go wrong, I would feel like I was on a raft in a river going in one direction, but I wanted to go this other direction. So I'm grabbing onto everything on the side, the tree branches and everything, like, no, this is not the way to go. But once I've learned to just go like, all right, I guess it's going to be this way, and just kind of ride it. And then you find like, oh, well, look, I didn't know it circled around this way. Well, shoot. I think that our guides are always trying to help us. When you ask for help, they try to help, and you just have to kind of let go and trust. And that's really hard. I don't know, okay, people are listening to this podcast, but those of you that I could see, how many of you have trouble trusting? Is it just me? It's probably just me. Oh, no. Okay. Yeah. It's like, is it just me?
Of course.
And it's something that you just do a little thing, and then you go like, huh, look at that. That worked out. And then you do another little thing and you go, well, look at there, but you have to kind of just take those little steps and see like, and then eventually you kind of loosen your grip, and you really do kind of get in a flow with Reiki. And if you're doing anything, you're sending Reiki to it and you're visualizing what you want instead of, I'm going to work so hard.
Yeah, sending Reiki to every step of the process.
Mhm.
You know,
But see,
I've
it
been,
sounds too easy, but it really is that easy.
well, but I mean, it's not. It's a dedicated daily discipline,
Well, yeah.
really, of sending Reiki, you know, every day. And I enlisted help. Guess what? I've asked Karen Caig to help me manifest my dreams by sending Reiki to my entire house building process. So she has been working on that for a long time, you know, sending Reiki to every, like those framers that took like 4
Yeah.
months to frame my house. I thought it would go up in a month. No, like 4 months, you know, sending Reiki for, you know, the paint and the stone. I had a lot of issues with the stone. I ended up on like my third choice. And then I went on a Reiki retreat and came back and they put up a different color stone. And I think I probably cried for a day or two then. But my project manager, you know, assured me, okay, we'll fix it. We'll fix it. They're still fixing it. But, you know, just sending Reiki, letting go of attachment, you know, but also being persistent and like, okay, well, I like some of those stones you put on the house, but those black ones, that wasn't
It
part
didn't look
of
like
the
Karen.
label. No, I don't want black stones. I want colorful stones on my house. Give me green and burgundy and gold and, you know, white and light gray. But those black ones, they got to go. And I didn't know, you know, like you come home and you come to the house and you see all these black stones all over and like, oh my God. But guess what? They can chisel those things out and replace them. Who knew? So, you know, on the one hand, you let go, but on the other hand, staying true to whatever it is that you want. You know, it's like, okay, I can be kind about this, you know, but I'm still going to ask for what it is that I want.
And sometimes I think, well, goodness, you know, I've been sending Reiki. It seems like it should just like, but then I think, but what could it have been if I weren't sending Reiki?
Messy.
You know, it, and so that's sometimes that's been an interesting process for me. I've never sent Reiki to a house building before, but I used animal Reiki to connect with the land at the very beginning, the lake. And, you know, I want to share this. Doesn't really have much to do with, well, no, maybe it does have something to do with your manifesting your dream, following your dreams. The house, the more I sent Reiki, the more I started to feel it was like an entity, you know, as they built it. It began to have like a feeling, you know, if you do distance Reiki, you know how when you like scan or you tune into somebody's energy, it was interesting that it seemed the house began to take on its own like loving energy. And I thought, well, I guess it's because I'm sending loving energy to the dirt, to the trees, to the animals that live there during the winter, like anything that's burrowed down under the ground. I'm sending you animal Reiki, to the fish in the lake, to the wood, to the metals that are in the house, to the stones in the house. And it starts to take on like a life. And Karen, didn't you say somebody came in that didn't
Yes.
know anything about it and that they could
Yeah. So I was going to tell that story.
tell that story?
The decorator came to look over the sorry saga of the stone with me. But as soon as she walked in the house, she said, oh, this house has such happy energy. Like, yeah, well, my friend and I have been sending a lot of Reiki to this entire process for it to manifest and go smoothly and for everyone to do good work and to be happy in their work here. And so, yeah. And I mean, and it's coming up. I mean, I move in about 2.5 weeks. And, you know, Karen, you move in what, like
I
6,
will be in Ecuador 2 months from now.
2 months. So
And
here we
so,
are, March and April, and
yeah.
that's pretty exciting. So, you know, yay to Reiki and gratitude. one of the things that Karen and I talked about is being grateful for whatever we already had in order to manifest more. Gratitude is a spiritual practice, and that helps us to manifest more of the good in our life, and Reiki can help you do that. You can just give yourself Reiki and think about.
And the Reiki ideals, we overlook those so much. Just for today, because when you're trying to follow a big dream, it seems insurmountable, the things that pop up. But remember, the first line is like, just for today. And then the first thing, don't be angry, because things are going to go wrong. Right? So just don't be angry. Don't worry. It's going to work out. Be grateful. Look around at what has happened right. Because some days it'll feel like nothing's going right. But so on those days, look around and go, okay, I can be grateful for the fact that my cat had to have his tooth pulled and we got that done and it's done. Anything. I mean, sometimes you really have to dig, but just for today, be filled with gratitude, devote yourself to your work. And that may be work toward your goal, but it may be also like, guide me and heal me so that I may be of greater service to myself and others. It may be the work on yourself, and be kind. And that's going to help you get toward any goal better, because people show up to help you along the way. Total strangers have helped me. Okay, if you're looking at me on the podcast, you can see I have like gray, white, blonde, it's dyed hair. And I got lost and my phone wasn't working in Ecuador. And the taxi driver that I had used a few times magically appeared beside me. And I was like, oh, Ruben, how did you find me? ¿Cómo? And he said, Mira, look at your hair. I found you, just on the street. Strangers, just when you're a kind person and you're trying to put that out, people are going to help you toward your goals, toward your dreams. So that's important too. Even when things aren't going right. Yeah, when your phone's not working and you're in a foreign country going, oh my gosh, where am I? Yeah, Reiki can help you.
Okay, well, I will try not to worry about you in Ecuador. Make sure that phone's working. Well, I wanted to check in and see about anything that you all would like to share about dreams that you are working on. Yeah, Christina.
Yes, I go just for it, like always, right? So my dream is to have my own business. And you guys know, you especially, Karen, know how long I work on that. So, but we moved from Missouri to Kansas. Miraculously, not even a year later, we had to move to Alaska. And for me, I did not know how to go about it. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I did my Reiki towards it, sent good intentions out, was grateful for what I have, was asking for help. And here there was people coming all of a sudden and helping me out. So I'm right now at that point, I'm registered as my business. I have a web designer. I meet her next week so that I finally get on the web so that anybody knows I'm actually existing. And yes, so all around here, everything all of a sudden goes a little bit smoother. And you guys know I'm not really good with technical things, So I had to take a class with Karen Craig also. And, it went in, went out. It was just like that. But it's getting better and better, So I do have to go ahead and be grateful for what I have, be grateful what was coming towards me and see, yes, I can do that. But I also was taught a lot of, how you call that? I had to be patient, very, very patient. Because, it's not happening from one day to the next. I mean, by some people's maybe yes, but it wasn't with me like that. So we see, and now my next dream on that is I want to teach, but I will know when I'm ready for it. I'm not sure if I'm ready for it, but I will be shown. I know that, one at a time, little baby steps. It's like Karen Craig and Karen Harrison said, so yeah.
You'll know.
My positive thing to that one.
Well, congratulations on those steps, Christina. That's not easy. You have moved around more And those moves, you didn't even include all the moves within Kansas and
Yes.
Missouri. And
Yes.
how you moved, I mean, you've moved like what, 4 times in 3 years?
Not even. We sold it. We went to Kansas, we're renting. Then we went ahead and sold our house in Missouri right away the next year. And the same week after this, we bought the new house in Kansas. Not even, that was in April. And then in December, we sold the house again and came over here and then bought a house again. But 25-ish, I will be back in the lower 48s.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
all for your husband's work.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a
But
lot of,
sometimes you get taken off course, but then when you finally get to your dream, you look back and you go, oh,
Totally.
that's why that happened there, because that really taught me to get this skill and that skill. And there's always a
Yeah,
plan.
and
You
it's like
just can't see
it feels like there is such a mountain. It's like this big.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh my God, why am I thinking? I said, it's not going to go nowhere. But when you kind of get quiet and just really try to go with the flow, I know it's not easy because in my head, everything has to be so.
Yeah.
So I had to get away from that so. It works
Me
out.
too.
It works out. Maybe a little slower, but on the end, it will work out regardless.
Yeah, that's the message I hope everybody gets.
yes. Anybody else want to share about a dream? Yeah, Pat.
Pat? Oh, unmute, Pat. There it goes.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, for the last 20 years, I've really had a dream of going to Ireland and Scotland to spend a month. And I've had some really big obstacles. Still my dream.
Yeah. So are you
You'll get there last.
What?
I said, you'll get there last. You will. You'll get there.
Yeah. So have you come up with the time to go yet?
No, I've still got some pretty big obstacles, but it's still
Ah.
the dream.
Well,
Do you have your passport?
No.
There's a step.
Okay. Yeah.
They're
Okay.
good for
So
10 years. So go ahead and get your passport.
that
Yeah.
would be good. So Pat, in April, I am going with Spirit Tours to Scotland and Ireland. So if you just Google for Spirit Tours, I signed up for this trip last July thinking that I would have been moved in November, December, January, February.
How do
Anyway,
I look it up?
Spirit Tours. You can just
Hmm.
Google them.
Okay.
They're based actually in Irving, Texas, I think, or Dallas. Anyway, yeah, down there. They're connected with the Center for Spiritual Living of Dallas.
And you're going in April?
Yes, I am. That trip is sold out, but they probably have a wait list.
You'll have to tell me all about it when you get back.
Pat, I put a
Yes.
link in the chat. I don't know how much money you have. Look at me putting my hand in your pocket. But
Well, that's my problem.
The way I traveled was I went with student groups. So I taught college English for 30 years, and that explorica.com and another one, Explorica will let people who aren't students go with them. So we used to have open tours because the more people that went on my tour, then I could get my trip free. So
Yeah,
I'd be like, yeah, I took everybody. Anybody want to go to Ireland and Scotland? Come with me, please.
That's how I started planning my trip, exactly what you're saying.
Okay, do that. There's
but
a way.
Long time ago.
We'll do it again, and you can get your passport. It's going to take a while. Everything's backed up right now because everybody's wanting to travel. So take that step. Apply for your passport and do that. And then at least when something shows up, when Reiki sends something your way, you'll have that passport and you're ready to go. But do that. That's a big step.
Hadn't
Yeah,
thought of
get
that, and that's a
pictures.
really good idea.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's telling the universe that you're ready to go.
I got my passport. Okay, show me some money. The trip. I got my passport, but even the passport is a lot of steps. You got to get the pictures. You got to make an
Yeah.
appointment at the post office. So, I mean,
And
that's
it's a lot of money.
yeah. Well, just
Yeah.
get the passport. That'll be
Okay.
one goal, and then you'll be ready.
Okay.
Sorry, didn't mean to
That's cool.
like preach it.
Okay.
I'm like the travel preacher.
Mhm.
Yes. Well, you have some other trips coming up too. And Karen is a
If anybody wants to go to South Africa in May of 2024, contact me. We're going to have a safari and everything.
Yep.
Well, that I love to travel.
Me too. And that's how I did it cheap, because it's safe, it's clean, it's not fancy, but I just want to go. So that's a good
And
way
if
to
I
go.
could get a group together, then I could go free. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
That
always a
could be
way.
a lot of fun.
I guess, and I think I
could be
got
a
the
lot of
nudge to
fun.
share that with you for a reason. So
Thank you so
the,
much.
the takeaway there is when you want to do something, just listen, because like sometimes I feel compelled to tell people things, well, because I like to talk, but I'm telling people something because it's like it's a nudge. I would say God uses me, like to like, hey, did you know blah blah blah? And they're like, oh, I needed to hear that. You know, and so listen for clues.
Exactly. Yeah.
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 Okay. We were almost out of time.
Thank you so
but
much for that.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Encouragement and instruction.
You'll get there, and you're never too old, and it's never too late.
Well, tomorrow's my 75th birthday, so I'm beginning to feel like I'm too old, and so
Just have to go slower. That's all.
Yeah.
You won't climb as many
mountains.
mountains, but you'll go.
You know, William Rand, the head of the International Center for Reiki Training, is 76. And when we go hiking, I usually can't keep up with him.
Yeah. That's another thing, Pat, is you can say, I'm going to start getting in shape for it. Get your passport
well,
and start
I'm
walking.
in good shape for it. That's not my worry.
Oh,
I'm in really good shape at the moment. So
well, there you go.
I've worked really hard on that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Good.
Well, just tell yourself, I'm keeping myself in shape for my trip.
That's a
And
good
you just
idea.
start
I'll write
talking
that
about
down.
it. Talk about your trip, like when I go, because you know you're going to go, and then
I actually do that a lot. Everybody knows that's what I want to do.
then you'll do it.
Yeah. Then that will help you attract the people that want to go.
Yep.
So,
Really, thank you so much.
so kind of moving into wrap up is living an incredible life is for anyone who knows how to align with their divine purpose on earth. You know, what we want is connected to our divine purpose. If we feel we don't deserve it or we aren't worthy, then it blocks our way. But we can use Reiki for that, to help us let go of any fears or worries and to heal that part of ourself that might feel unworthy for manifesting our dream. And then we can get in alignment with the Reiki, and then everything will start to unfold and manifest. You know, and the next thing we know, you know, okay, one step at a time, and we are getting there, and it's coming up, and it's exciting.
Yeah. Celebrate the little victories. It's like, oh, one step closer.
Yeah. So, well, I am so grateful for you all joining us tonight. Thank you so much. And you can tell your friends about this podcast. It's on my website at KarenHarrison.net under Reiki Call. And you can find Karen Caig's website at Reiki-Institute.com. She teaches online and teaches all over the world, Europe and China, all sorts of different time zones. It's kind of exciting. Did you want to share about a class coming up or something, Karen?
Yes, speaking of all over the world, I have Animal Reiki coming up the first weekend in March, and I'm teaching it on London time. So if you're in the United States and you like to get up early, I'm starting that class at 8 Central Time. And it's going to go over 3 days instead of 2, from 8 to noon, that Saturday and Sunday, and then also the following Saturday. So that's kind of a special class that it works better with people on European time zones.
Mm-hmm.
I got up at 4:30 this morning to teach on Taiwan time. So, yeah.
Well, and I'm just grateful for you doing that. My classes are now hybrid, which means they're online and in person, which I did my last one in January, and boy, you have to have everything working to make that happen. But
Yeah, I haven't
no,
tried
thank
that.
God it did, because I tried it once before and my internet connection wasn't strong enough and I had to reschedule all of the online people. But, we just try things, and if they don't work out, then we figure out how do I fix that and try again.
Yeah, I teach all my classes online. I also have a blog I'd love for you to follow on my website. So
Okay, yes, Karen is an excellent writer. I find many great ideas and inspirations from her articles.
thanks.
So, well, thank you all for joining us.
guys.
Big hugs. And if you have other ideas of things that you would like to hear about, just email me at Karen@KarenHarrison.net. Or if you would like to be on the podcast and share something, let me know too, because I'm always looking for things that would be of interest to my Reiki audience. Okay, and thank you, Karen, so much for coming on and talking and sharing with me. It's always fun to talk with you and share ideas, and we encourage each other, and here we are doing the daring things.
It's nice to see you guys. I know so many of Karen's students. It's nice to see you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Have a good night.
You too.